There's a moment we've all faced when someone's voice fills the room, cutting through the calm like a blade, their arrogance echoing in every corner. You sit there, holding your composure, wondering if silence makes you weak or wise. The ancient Stoics wrestled with this same human drama long before microphones, social media, or crowded meetings existed. They didn't just deal with rude people. They mastered the art of staying powerful in the face of noise. Because to the Stoics, true strength was never about shouting louder. It was about being so grounded that no one could shake your peace. Stoicism, the philosophy of inner strength and rational calm, was never just about endurance. It was about elegance under pressure. Think of Marcus Aurelius sitting among senators arguing over politics, or Epictetus teaching young men how to hold their dignity while mocked by the arrogant. These philosophers learned to respond not with fire, but with form. Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue, said Zeno, reminding us that silence can often speak louder than anger. Their wisdom wasn't born in temples. It was forged in the noise of the marketplace, the debates of courts, and the sting of human ego. And now, as our modern world grows louder, with opinions, interruptions, and endless arguments, the question stands before us once more. How can we silence rudeness without losing grace? How can we, like the Stoics, turn every noisy encounter into a test of strength rather than a battle of voices? In the coming discussion, we'll uncover those timeless Stoic techniques, not to escape noise, but to rise above it, quietly, powerfully, and with unshakable poise. If you've ever faced someone who just wouldn't stop talking, and you managed to stay calm instead of snapping, you already understand a piece of Stoic power. If you enjoyed this glimpse into that quiet strength, don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe to walk deeper into Stoic wisdom. Like the video to help more people find their inner calm, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us about a moment when you held your ground with grace. Let's build a community where silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. Technique 1. Long silence and direct gaze. There are moments when noise takes human form, a person who mistakes volume for truth and interruption for intelligence. In these moments, most of us feel an almost magnetic pull to respond, to defend, to prove. But imagine this: instead of firing back, you let silence take the stage. You look at them, not with anger or mockery, but with a calm, steady gaze, a kind of quiet that carries more weight than 1,000 arguments. That's not passivity, that's power. In Stoicism, silence isn't the absence of action, it's an intentional act of control. The Stoics understood that words are like arrows. Once released, they can't be recalled. But silence? Silence is a shield and a mirror at once. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." To remain still while another person burns out their energy in noise, that's mastery of the self. In that stillness, you're showing something they can't argue with, that your peace is not up for negotiation. You are not rejecting them. You are simply refusing to let their chaos enter your space. Think of it like an old village story, a wise elder and a furious villager. The villager screams accusations. The elder just looks, unmoving. The crowd grows uncomfortable, not because of the yelling, but because of the silence. When the elder finally speaks, his words are short, clear, and final. That's the Stoic art, using stillness as strategy. Loud people thrive on reaction. When you don't feed them, they starve on their own echoes. To hold a long silence and meet noise with presence requires a discipline deeper than speaking. It means knowing your worth so well that no amount of shouting can cheapen it. It means remembering that true confidence doesn't need to prove itself, it simply is. The Stoics didn't aim to win arguments, they aimed to win themselves. And that's how you silence the world, not by shouting over it, but by standing still until it quiets down on its own. Technique 2. repeating his last sentence in a calm tone. Picture this. Someone raises their voice, the room feels heavier, and you can almost see their words turning into weapons. Most people would either fight back or shut down, but the Stoics had a third way, one that disarms without conflict and humbles without humiliation. When someone shouts or throws sharp words, repeat their last sentence. Slowly, calmly, like you're holding up a mirror. That's not sarcasm, it's precision. It shows you heard them, but you refuse to drown in their noise. The ancient Stoics believed that composure was the highest form of strength, not dominance, not cleverness, but presence. Seneca once wrote, "He who is calm disturbs the fury of another." By calmly echoing what a loud person says, you expose the irrational rhythm of their anger. You take their emotional fire and cool it with clarity. The moment they hear their own words, stripped of heat, spoken softly, something shifts. They realize how absurd, or even unnecessary, their aggression sounds. It's not confrontation, it's reflection. Like water still enough to show a distorted face, your calmness becomes their teacher without you saying a single judgmental word. There's an old story about a young philosopher who faced an angry nobleman accusing him unjustly. Instead of defending himself, the philosopher repeated the man's accusation softly and word for word. The nobleman grew quieter with each repetition until finally his voice faltered because there was nothing left to fight against. That's the Stoic technique at its finest, transforming emotion into reason by echoing it without resistance. It's psychological aikido, redirecting force instead of blocking it. Repeating someone's angry words calmly isn't submission. It's a declaration of mastery. It tells the world, "You cannot drag me down to your frequency." In that moment, you become the still point in the storm. You remind others and yourself that peace is not the absence of sound, but the choice of tone. Technique 3. Asking an unexpected question. There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't come from saying nothing. It comes from saying the right thing at the right moment. Imagine someone yelling, trying to dominate the air, the conversation, maybe even you. The tension builds like a storm, until you calmly ask a question they never saw coming. Are you angry because you care about this deeply? Do you think shouting will help me understand you better? Or even, would you like to start over? The energy shifts instantly. They pause, maybe even blink, because you've just changed the entire rhythm of the conflict. This is a Stoic's weapon, curiosity wrapped in composure. The Stoics often used questions not to challenge others, but to reveal the truth hidden beneath emotion. Epictetus, who once taught through conversation rather than lectures, would dismantle arrogance not with scolding, but with a quiet inquiry that forced reflection. A question, when unexpected, disrupts the automatic pattern of anger. It redirects the loud person's focus from attack to awareness. In psychological terms, it interrupts their emotional loop, the brain's cycle of reaction, and introduces a spark of reason. In human terms, it's like turning a raging fire into smoke that can finally clear. There's an old story from a Roman market about a merchant who insulted a philosopher in public, calling him useless and lazy. The philosopher didn't argue. He simply looked at the man and asked, "Do you speak this way to everyone, or only to those who don't fight back?" The crowd went silent. The merchant's face turned pale, because the question didn't humiliate, it revealed. It held up a mirror. That's the magic of an unexpected question. It replaces noise with thought. Asking a surprising question in the face of rudeness isn't just clever, it's profoundly Stoic. It turns conflict into dialogue, pride into pause. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." By choosing reflection over reaction, you remind everyone, especially yourself, that wisdom isn't loud. It's sharp, calm, and curious enough to turn chaos into conversation. Technique 4. breaking eye contact for a few seconds. There's a strange kind of power in looking away at the right moment. Picture a crowded room, someone's voice growing sharper, louder, more desperate to dominate the space. Most people meet aggression with locked eyes, as if eye contact alone is a duel to be won. But the Stoic strength isn't in meeting force with force, it's in knowing when to disengage. A calm, deliberate pause in eye contact is not weakness. It's a quiet statement that says, "I don't need to fight for your attention. I already control my presence." The Stoics understood that composure often speaks louder than confrontation. Seneca once noted that to be provoked is to be conquered. When you briefly break eye contact, maybe glance at your hands, the floor, or simply take a breath, you create a psychological gap that unsettles the aggressor. They feed on your reaction, and you've just denied them their fuel. In that fleeting moment, their momentum falters. It's the verbal equivalent of pulling the plug on a raging amplifier. There's an old story about a teacher in Athens who was insulted by a student in front of the class. The teacher listened in silence, then turned his eyes toward the window, watching the sunlight on the courtyard stones. The student's anger stumbled into awkwardness. The silence and the teacher's refusal to lock horns exposed the immaturity of the outburst. The crowd shifted its sympathy, not to the loud, but to the calm. That's the subtle psychology the Stoics mastered. When you don't engage, you reframe who holds the power in the room. Breaking eye contact for a few seconds isn't an escape, it's strategy. It's saying, "I'm not ignoring you, I'm not afraid of you. I'm simply choosing peace over performance." Marcus Aurelius might call it winning without fighting. In a world obsessed with being seen and heard, sometimes the most disarming thing you can do is simply look away. And when you turn your eyes back, do it with the quiet authority of someone who has already won the argument without saying a word. Technique 5. Referring to time or overdue work. Sometimes, the sharpest way to silence someone isn't through confrontation, it's through redirection. Imagine someone raising their voice, trying to pull you into a pointless debate or to prove their dominance in a room full of people. The Stoic response isn't to argue louder, but to gracefully pivot. A calm, well-timed comment like, "I'd love to continue this, but I have a deadline to meet," instantly shifts the dynamic. You're not retreating, you're elevating the conversation above the noise. You've just reminded them, and everyone else, that your time is valuable, and you won't waste it on drama. The Stoics were masters of this subtle assertiveness. They viewed time as the most precious currency of life. Seneca once said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." When someone's aggression or arrogance threatens your peace, invoking the weight of time reminds both of you what truly matters. You're signaling maturity, that while they spend minutes proving a point, you're investing yours in something meaningful. It's a quiet form of dominance, not through volume, but through purpose. There's an old tale from Rome about a young senator who was mocked publicly by an older rival during a debate. Instead of responding in anger, the senator calmly stood up and said, "I thank you for your passion, but my duties to the Republic can't wait." He bowed slightly and left. The rival was left standing in front of the Senate, loud but irrelevant. The chamber fell silent. The senator didn't win by arguing, he won by moving forward. That's Stoicism in motion, mastering your priorities instead of battling for validation. So the next time someone raises their voice, remember, your schedule, your tasks, and your purpose can be shields against pettiness. Referring to your time or overdue work isn't an excuse, it's a reminder of your discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculation about others." The louder they get, the quieter your purpose should become. You don't need to silence them with words, you can silence them with direction. Technique 6. Interrupting respectfully with a fixed sentence. There's an art to interruption, one that separates composure from confrontation. In a world where loud voices often dominate and calm ones are overlooked, the Stoic approach offers a subtle power, the ability to interrupt without aggression, to reclaim the space without raising your tone. Imagine a heated office meeting where someone's volume fills the room, cutting through every sentence. Instead of competing for attention, you lift your hand slightly, lean forward, and say evenly, "Allow me to finish my point." That short, fixed sentence lands like a quiet hammer, firm, respectful, and impossible to ignore. The Stoics believe that authority isn't projected through volume, but through clarity of intent. Epictetus once said, "Be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary and in few words." A fixed sentence, simple, rehearsed, and unshakably calm, does exactly that. It conveys certainty. You're not reacting to emotion. You're guiding the conversation back to reason. The beauty of this Stoic strategy is that it transforms interruption into leadership. You don't silence others by overpowering them. You do it by grounding them. There's a story told about a Greek philosopher who, during a public debate, was constantly interrupted by a wealthy merchant seeking attention. The philosopher paused, looked at the man, and said, "If your goal is to be heard, I will wait until silence returns." The crowd laughed softly, and the merchant fell quiet. The philosopher didn't argue, didn't scold. He redirected the air in the room. That moment became a living lesson in Stoic control, not of emotion, but of energy. So, the next time you face a loud, disrespectful person, remember, interruption doesn't have to mean aggression. A single, steady phrase can stop noise better than any shout. Prepare your fixed sentence. It's your verbal armor. When said calmly, it carries the weight of restraint, not resistance. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." You silence chaos not by matching it, but by mastering it, one composed sentence at a time. If you stayed with me until the end, it says something powerful about you, that you value calm strength over empty noise. The Stoics would have admired that, because learning to stay composed when others lose control is not weakness, it's mastery. In a world full of people trying to shout louder, you're learning how to speak wiser. Remember, every moment of restraint builds your inner authority, and every pause refines your presence. So keep practicing these subtle Stoic techniques, not to dominate others, but to rise above them with grace. The quietest person in the room often holds the most power, and now you know exactly why.